Hello, human geographies. We're going to talk about some interesting topics for the future, seeing where things are going in the future as far as geography and one world or many, all these compelling arguments to discuss that. First, we'll talk about region. Uneven geography developments. We talked about development, core periphery, Kristallers theory in terms of central business districts in first, second, and third order cities, that kind of thing. We have global interdependence, now a transitional class for super rich. A small fraction of the population has quite a bit of the world's wealth. Not all observers agree that the income gap is widening. There's different measures of it. Fast and slow worlds now connected to high-speed broadband internet, megacities. Slow world consisting of hollowed-out rural landscapes. One of the examples we can talk about is local identities within states at the same time, or nationalism, as it is touted in the Path to One Europe. You can see that with the European Union and consolidation of their economies into one base currency called the euro. Power and wealth will not likely be evenly distributed. Many scholars believe globalization actually strengthens people's bonds. Definitely, we see that through trade and some of the cooperation throughout the world. 2013 poll of EU citizens found the economic crisis become a political crisis for the future of the EU. We have globalization. Transnational corporations often adapt their product lines to local norms and preferences, or adjust their product practices to local labor and environmental laws. So we see this globalization, but it also has to adjust for local practices. Geography of the internet allows global internet connectivity. In one place bound human activities now occur on the internet. The internet can cross borders. The internet has the tool of many unanticipated uses, some good, some bad. Rather than making national borders irrelevant, the internet can sometimes highlight differences between countries. So, communication tool. Connections to the internet, here we see that, where it's pretty high. Virtual communities, so getting online, basically having certain different areas. Mobility in the digital age, internet clearly profoundly alters the speed, the character of cultural interaction, so we can learn different things about different cultures without necessarily traveling there. In the virtual world, diffusion of the internet, so we see this really shifting. Notice in the inland countries we don't have data for. New automobiles, China overtook the United States, becoming the world's leading producer. Migration futures, as long as there are environmental disasters, global scale economic, cities and civil wars, we know diasporas will occur, emerge, different cultures stemming out of this type of influence. Places of global tourists, differences in power and structure in the tourist experience. Tourism can be a double-edged sword. It can nurture folk and indigenous cultures, but it also can encroach on different societies. Imperialism on globalization. U.S. overseas imperialism was conducted through military conquest and occupation. We see a lot of this through many countries. Globalization would seem to be race cultural differences with so much influence crossing boundaries. Many people feature globalization influences their country and their own communities. Modern technological innovations and invention released different types of sharing, intensified. No analog future, kind of moving more along the lines of the digital world. Global fossil fuels consumption rising dramatically, so we talked about using more renewable energy. So atmosphere CO2 levels have been increasing for a long time. Culture of mass consumption requires enormous amount of natural resources, so we see this population growing tremendously using more and more resources. Are these sustainable? Well, there's different schools of thought the population, human population is growing so much that a lot of people think it isn't sustainable, especially with the environmental impacts. So, for instance, we see impacts as far as coal strip mining in West Virginia. UN Conference on Environment and Development for Sustainability, different covenants and agreements and conventions on that. Prominent was the Convention on Biological Diversity. A lot of meetings about that, just to be aware of it at a high level. Urban landscape serves the index to level of type of engagement, the globalization process. Homogeneous processes are omnipresent or omnipotent. So basically, when we spread through globalization, that there tends to be a reduction in uniqueness, since we can transcend boundaries so easily. Neo-colonialism, embracing uniqueness and authenticity of place in response to globalization. So it's kind of keeping the local trends. We have businesses, for instance, Walmart, that tend to trade a lot internationally and throughout the world. We have things that can influence this type of maintaining localism, like zoning laws, community groups, so forth. Driving to eliminate territorial boundaries as far as landscapes to free traded commodities. See this in Europe and the EU. Presentation of cultural landscapes would be a key tool to mitigate this globalization occurrence. Yeah, no analog features, most straightforward. Impact of climate change, agricultural landscapes, several different climate models. Sea level rise, generally thought to be true. It's really interesting during the Pleistocene stage, about epoch or period, a third of the world was covered with ice. Now it's about 10%. A trend has been occurring way before we really had lots of human activity in terms of using carbon-based fuels. So a lot of it's happened prior to us using quite a bit of carbon, fossil fuels, that kind of thing. But still, it's contributing to it. Anyway, this concludes the class. Hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed having you in human geography, and we will see you online.